Welcome to It's the Comptons podcast. I'm Ben.
And I'm Jen.
And we're the Comptons.
Hey.
And we hold nothing back.
Oh, I forgot about that part. So we'll get better at this.
Yeah, we'll get there. And this episode is sponsored by Cinnamon Donuts, because I ate a whole box this morning and a Monster. I'm just being transparent.
That's ridiculous. I love you.
I love you.
Hard times over here in the Compton house.
We didn't get any sleep last night.
No, we haven't gotten sleep for several nights, and last night just was the cherry on top. So
yeah, that was...
Yeah, in Jesus' name, we'll be back to normal tonight.
Yes. Speak a believer, receive it. So today we're kind of doing the episode we should have done is episode 1.
Right.
So this is, I was thinking about calling this episode 1A.
1B. 1A.
No, but it's supposed to be A.
Oh, okay, I see.
The original episode 1. That's what it should have been.
The original episode 1.
Because we realized, after talking with some people that we loved, we realized that not everybody knows our story.
Right. They were just kind of like, in listening to that, if we didn't already know you so well, we would say, hey, well, who's this person? Who's that person? What do you mean? Where'd you live? Where are you from? What did you do? All the questions.
Where did you come from? Where did you go?
And so we were like, oh, so maybe we kind of need to do a little background podcast to kind of get people who don't know us caught up.
Yeah.
Or maybe people who know us but just don't know all of us, right? Yeah. And
they don't know that you were my prison pen pal.
Yeah, exactly.
You wanted to be on that show where women fall in love with the guy that's in prison, and
I did it.
You did it. You did it.
Oh my
goodness. Good job.
I go out and I conquer my dreams. So, anyway, so we're just gonna, even if you know us, this is not gonna be
a good refresher,
right? It's not gonna be a boring episode. I think you might learn still some new things about us, and we're just gonna kind of push through our backgrounds and who we are, where we came from, and where we're now, where we are now,
where we're now here now.
How now, brown cow? All right.
So, give you a little background on me. My name is Benjamin Douglas Compton.
Oh, Lord.
Born on...
Social Security number.
I was going to give that. I'll give the last 4. 3392. That's not my last 4. For those you can't see, but Trent just looked at me like, why would you say that? No, my real last 4 is...
Okay.
Oh. So, I grew up... I was born in Lansing, Michigan. And I grew up in Grand Ledge, Michigan, where I was a pastor's kid at what was originally First United Pentecostal Church, and then the name was changed to Liberty Church. And my parents were pastors. My grandpa and my grandma, they were pastors at the church before. Mm-hmm. Then my mom and dad took over the church after a little bit. And then my parents played a fun little prank on us and moved us to California.
And how old were you?
I was 13. I just did the math. Because I was never know. I'm like, how old was I when we moved? And so we moved when I was 13. But I don't want to miss one thing. The summers in Michigan. Mm-hmm. I grew up going to camp in Marshall, Michigan. Mm-hmm. Some of the best summers of my life. Mm-hmm.
And
church camp.
You were actually too young to be a camper. You were just there because of your parents, right?
Well, they had multiple camps each summer.
Oh, okay.
So they had so I was there for every camp. Mm-hmm. Some of the camps I was either too young for or too old for.
Okay.
And so they would have family camp, they would have kids camp, they would have junior high, and then senior high camp. Mm-hmm. And
so sometimes you'd be there as a camper, sometimes you'd just be there because your dad ran the camp.
Yeah, my dad ran the camp, and so I was there every week though. We had a cabin that we just got to go visit not too long ago. Yeah. That was fun. Yeah. And that's where felt God call me. Mm-hmm. But that was actually after we lived in California. I came back to visit. Mm-hmm. And God called me into ministry. But we'll talk about that later. So, Michigan, then we moved to California. 2008, moved to Orange, California. And life was different. From a small town in Michigan to the bright lights in the city. No, Orange is a pretty normal town. Like, it's a normal city. But we started to go to church at Spirit and Truth Worship Center in Orange, where my family were pastoring. And, man, that was kind of... I always say, like, I was born in Michigan, but I grew up in California. Because, 13 years old, you're still, like, figuring things out. Do I shave my chest hair? Do I not?
Oh, my gosh. Do I even have chest hair?
I did. At 13,
oh, Lord.
I had...
You're the hairiest beast.
I had to shave, like, in 8th grade.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, yeah. So, grew up going to church, got involved. Like, church was always kind of the center of everything. Well, it wasn't always the center. Football was was the world that...
In your heart, maybe.
Football in my heart was the sun that my world revolved around.
Right.
You like that?
Yeah,
that's
that
poetic.
was poetic.
You like that? I just made that up.
But in reality, like, for your family, church was the center.
Yeah, like my life was always revolved around church.
Yeah.
But my heart, the number one thing in my heart was football. Like, I was always like, yes, God, like, you are real. I'm going to follow you. But football was my passion. My dream as a youngling was to play... No, youngling.
Right.
Was to play football. And played football freshman year. And went to an amazing school, El Medina High School. Shout out. Best school ever. But they were really bad at football. And so I transferred to Villa Park, where my best friend played football. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is where the scouts are looking. And then the summer before sophomore year...
It's like basically the summer before your first day at this new school, right? Which you transferred to.
Yeah.
It's like you hadn't even gone to day one at this new school.
Yeah, I didn't even go... I went to football practice.
Okay.
And then we had like a little break for people to go on vacation. And then during that little break, I went to Michigan. And I went to church camp. Go to the altar. God tells me to quit football. God tells me... I'm hitting the steering wheel.
Yeah.
God tells me!
Okay.
God tells me to quit football and to pursue ministry. And that was crazy to me. Like, that's a whole story that I want to tell another time. And so I quit football, called my coaches, quit football, and my family's calling me, the coaches are calling me, like, hey, like... My best friend, my first day... I'm going to tell this story because there's time. I'm going to make time for this story. My first day of school, at this brand new school where I know nobody but people on the football team. And I haven't seen them in weeks because I quit football because I'm pursuing ministry. I'm in line, getting ready to go into my class, and I hear the football coach say, Compton! And I'm like, oh, no. Like, first of all, nobody knows who I am. And as everybody's looking around, it's like, oh, it's a white kid. And so I walk over to the coach in front of like 50 kids. And he goes, I walk up to him and he goes, so Castro told me you found God, huh? Castro was my best friend. And I'm like, no, I didn't find God. And I'm like sitting there trying to debate, like, do I explain the call to ministry to my coach or do I just say no? Like, I don't know what to do. And so I go to the school for a whole year, not playing football. It was a very weird year. I made some great friends. It was such a weird year, though, because... You
were there for a purpose, and then that purpose was removed. Yeah,
and so I ended up hanging out with my friends from El Medina, from my first school, even more. And then eventually I transferred back to El Medina junior and senior year, where I was really involved in school and stuff. I was on ASB, like the student council. Super fun times. I had an amazing high school experience. That's one of my favorite things because so many people are like, I hated high school, hated my teachers. I loved high school. I loved my teachers. I loved my friends. I loved the memories that I made. I fully took advantage of high school.
Yeah.
And then, and all of that, still getting more and more involved in youth ministry. I started leading worship, and I was like a youth student leader, and we were on the worship team together. We were singing on Sundays together.
But we'll get there. I have to give my background
Yeah. Sorry. And yeah, okay. That's say.
That's you.
Yeah.
That's you.
Yep, that's high school. That's me.
Growing up.
Oh, gee.
Okay. So I had a little bit of a different background.
A little bit.
I grew up in California. I was born there and raised there. In like LA and then in Orange County and then kind of back in LA for a little bit. So I grew up kind of between two households. My mom and stepdad, who I don't even call him my stepdad, I just call him Dad. He's been there since he married my mom when I was 2, and my little brother was like I don't even think a year old yet. And so my mom and stepdad's house, and then my biological dad, he left when my mom was pregnant with my little brother. But his parents said, hey, we know that he left, but we would still like to see the kids. Can we pay child support and have split custody? So instead of like my dad having split custody of me and my brother, my grandparents had split custody of me and my brother. And so we would go kind of back and forth to the two houses on the custody schedule. And I call them my Gram and my Papa Ed. And so at Gram and Papa Ed's house, it was a Christian household, and we would go to church, and we would, read the Bible and hear Bible stories and all that kind of stuff. And then at my mom and stepdad's house, it was the total opposite. They were very much just like, figure it out for yourself. Whatever you want to believe, you can believe. This is your life. Like, you go do you. And so it was very definitely two different types of households. And then when I was 12, like graduating 6th grade, going into junior high, because in California where I grew up, elementary was 1 through 6, and then junior high was 7 and 8, and then high school was 9 through 12. And so I was graduating elementary school, gonna finally merge into this junior high with all the other elementary schools, all the other 6th grade classes from the area. We're going to merge together into 7th grade. So that's already a big transition.
Yeah.
And Gram and Papa Ed decided that they were ready to sort of retire to Florida. And so they moved to Florida. And I just remember being so devastated.
And you feel deeply.
I do.
Even at a young age.
Yes.
I didn't know you, but I could tell.
Yes. I felt deeply.
You feel things deeply.
I feel everything very deeply. And Papa Ed, I remember when I was little, he used to tell me, you have the biggest heart. And not necessarily in the way that, you're just kind to everyone. I try to be nice to people, but more so in the fact that everything just affects me deeply.
Yeah.
And so it really was, a huge shift for me. And then at that same time, my family moved from the house where we kind of grew up in to a different house, not far away, but just moved out of this, house that we had all of our childhood memories in, to a new home. So a lot of changes were going on at this time. And so Gram and Papa Ed left. And so then that kind of took away my, my church experience, so to speak. And I remember being little and going to Sunday school. I usually sat with my grandparents in big church. And I remember getting to an age where they were like, do you want to go with the kids? And sometimes it'd be like, oh, okay. I didn't have any relationship there. So it was a little bit difficult to say, yeah, send me with all these kids I don't know, But I do remember one time going, and I remember them singing a song where you had to spell Jesus's name. And I remember anxiety inside of me as a little kid because I didn't know how to spell Jesus. Yeah. And so that was really how foreign a lot of church culture was to me, or even just church knowledge was to me. And so eventually, I'm in junior high and I'm meeting all these new friends. And so I start going to church with different friends on the weekends because I knew that I liked going to church. And so I went to all different kinds of churches. I went to Catholic masses. I went to Lutheran churches. I went to Mormon churches.
Satanic temples, all of that.
Definitely never went to one of those. But I had different friends, and if any of them are listening, you guys took me to your churches with your families, and I really got to experience kind of a fullness of Christ's church, of people who say that Jesus is their savior, but who believe in a wide variety of other things, and so, and maybe have differences theologically. And so it was an interesting experience. And as a child, a teenager, an early, young teen, I really didn't understand all those theological differences. I just knew that I was going to these places that were full of joy and full of peace and who loved Jesus. And that would be a, kind of a running theme for all of those places, is that I felt that way there. And so I always knew I wanted to keep going to church. And so Then fast forward into high school, and I still went to church on and off with different people, but I started to become more independent and kind of started to like live my own life. Like, you have to understand, at 15,
wear pajama pants to school.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, definitely, like, I feel like I had a really good high school experience, but it wasn't the same as Ben's. My high school experience was like, basically, I felt like a 24-year-old.
I am too cool for you losers.
No, like, I had good friends at school, and like, I loved...
You and your friends were too cool.
Kind of. I mean, we just... Well, I'll just speak for me. I just felt like I was already like 25, trapped in a 15-year-old's body. So I got my license, I got a car, I got a cell phone. And back then, cell phones were like... new. Like, when I was a freshman, cell phones were like brand new for people for like the mass public to have with them. And so, you know, I just felt very independent and very much more grown than maybe some of my other classmates who were still depending on like parents to give them rides and things like that. I felt very much more mature. And then I started dating a guy that was a lot older than me, and I hung out with people that were a lot older than me. And so I just felt grown. And then, so fast forward, I'm just going through high school. When I became a senior, I only had 4 classes that I had to take to complete my credits. So I was done by lunchtime. And so at lunchtime, I didn't even stick around to like eat lunch with my friends. I literally left, grabbed food on the way to my office job that I had gotten myself. Like, I'm telling you, I thought I was grown. And I had always said, like, as soon as I turn 18, I'm moving out. Like, for my birthday, my dad was like, yeah, I'll get you a U-Haul truck, you know? Meanwhile, I was going in the summers to go visit Grandma and Papa Ed, and I was still seeing them. And when I would go visit them, we would go to church, and they would talk to me about the Bible. You know, my grandma's actually the one that named me Trinity.
Would you argue, like, with your grandparents about the Bible? Like,
no.
Were your views...
No, I never...
crazy different?
No. I never argued with them because I was always like, yeah, God's real, you know? But I didn't have a fullness of an understanding of the Bible. Like, I never read the Bible. You didn't have a relationship with God. I didn't have a relationship with God. I never read the Bible. So to me, it was just like, yeah, of course I believe that God's real. And that's all I need to believe, right? You know, and my grandparents were not legalistic in any sense of the word. They definitely have very strong convictions, but they never tried to push those on any of us. More what they did was they just prayed. They just buried themselves in prayer for their grandkids and their kids. And they just trusted that the Lord would get a hold of us, you know, and thank you, Jesus, he's faithful. So anyways, I graduated high school at 18. I moved out with that boyfriend that I had been dating. I had a full-time job. Like, I was like Miss Independent, you know, at least that's what I thought.
And I was 18.
Yeah.
Didn't have...
Yeah, you were 18. Just learned how to drive.
Just learned how to drive.
We're learning how to drive at 18.
Well, because one of my best friends had a car. Yeah. And so I was like, hey, just come pick me up.
Yeah, and so like your parents would drive you wherever you need to go. Your friends would drive you. Yeah. You had never had a job in high school.
Nope.
Yeah, and I had jobs the entire time I was in high school. Like, literally.
And I went to one church, like, my whole life.
Right, yeah.
Like, one type of church, and it's just funny that you experienced
almost the polar opposite.
A polar opposite. Yeah.
So then I think I was 20, I ended up getting married to the guy that I was dating, and then I moved to LA with him. And then by the time that I was 23, I think, he had decided that he didn't believe in marriage and he wanted to be an actor. And that was that. Like, there was...
And I'm so sorry, but thank you. Because she's mine. I put her on lock.
I love you. So that marriage, like... And the funny thing is that even though I didn't have, like, a relationship with God, I didn't really... Back then, I know this sounds bad, but back then, I didn't really care if God had an opinion about what I was doing. Not like, I don't care what your opinion is, but like, it didn't cross my mind to care that God would have an opinion about what I was doing. Yeah. But even though I didn't have that going on in my brain, I still had told my ex-husband, I never want to get a divorce. Because my parents had been divorced, my grandparents had been divorced, like, all, you know, it was a generational thing that I saw with my worldly, fleshly eyes, if you want to say it, you know, I saw it and I didn't want it repeated. Yeah. And so I was dead set against getting a divorce. and, you know, the funny reality that kind of hit me, not funny, but now looking back, it's funny, was that it doesn't really matter if I don't want to get a divorce. Marriage takes two people working together at something. And if one of them decides they're done, there's, you know, little to nothing the other person can do to keep that marriage together. And so he ended up, you know, we ended up getting a divorce, and after that I just kind of like had a downward spiral, because to me, I thought, you know, I was a good wife. You know, I was faithful, and I tried, and I, you know, went to any length to try to make this work. And on the opposite side, that all of that wasn't true. There was other things going on the opposite side of the marriage. And so, you know, I felt like, well, since I tried to do everything right and it didn't work, then basically screw it. I'm going to do whatever I want, however I want. Yeah. So I kind of had this like 6 month to a year, maybe, span of time where I just went nuts. I was, you know, from going from only kissing one guy to, you know, being promiscuous, to using drugs, to drinking alcohol, to staying out late all the time. I don't even know how I kept my job. It was a really, like, I spiraled, and it was basically me just broken and hurting over this, and not really having the tools to combat that brokenness and that hurt.
And just to clarify, we haven't met yet.
No, I hadn't met you. No. And so then I did something really dumb. I drank and I drove. And that was like a huge light bulb moment for me, because before that, I was the type of person that I wouldn't even take one drink of alcohol and drive, because I was petrified that I'd get pulled over and the police would smell my breath. Like, I'm a major rule follower. Yeah. Like, major rule follower. And so, like, you can tell that
whenever we drive by a police officer, whenever we drive by, Trin shoots her head back. Are they following us?
Yeah.
They follow us.
Like, I am a major rule follower. And so
we're not even doing anything wrong. Yeah. You just get nervous.
I am,
no matter what.
Yeah, like, so anyways, I was acting so out of character because I was just so broken and so hurt and really just needed healing. And then I saw a kid that I went to high school with, his religion's, like, you know, on Facebook, you can, like, pick what your religion is, and he picked what his religion was, and I saw it, and I was just like, oh, I've never heard that term before. And so, you know, he started just chatting with me on, like, Instant Messenger, and then invited me to a coffee shop, and then invited me to church. And then I was like, all right, if I'm going to believe this, I'm going to know what I believe. So I would just take my Bible and I would just write notes all over it, write questions down when I had them. And I started going. The church that I was invited to was STWC, which is where Ben went to church.
Boom.
And so
I'm pretty sure I remember seeing you for the first time.
Yeah. So that's...
I was like, whew.
Shawty's a 10.
Shawty, you a 10. Hey, a 10. Hey.
So that's kind of where our paths...
Can I have your number?
That's where our paths crossed.
Yes.
We finally intersected and met. And from the first time that I walked in the building, you know, I was forever changed. I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit. It was life-changing, truly. Like, not just in a, like, existential, like, sort of, like, you know, cognitive way. No, it was actually...
Existential cognitive?
You know, I'm probably misusing existential, so someone can roast me in the comments.
You're so smart to me.
It was in a physical, real way that change occurred. I literally never picked up another drink, never picked up another, you know, drug, never. I broke up with the boyfriend that I was seeing because I was like, nope, we're done. I was baptized. I was filled with the Holy Spirit, and literally my life changed forever. And it was quick, and it was like almost just like an explosion of how like quickly and crazy that it happened. Yes.
Like everything has changed.
Everything changed in a moment. Everything changed.
It's crazy to think about that. When you were baptized, I was probably there.
Yeah, for sure.
But I didn't
recognize. Yeah. No, didn't say, hey, that's my wife.
Yeah, that's my future wife. Let me baptize her, okay?
So anyways, so we met at STWC, and we were in the choir together.
Hey. Should we do our amen?
Oh, no. Jesus. Okay. No, I can't do that. And so...
We were in youth ministry together.
Yeah. We served alongside of each other. We had such a good time. Like, we had an amazing...
We were really good friends.
Yeah, and we had an amazing group of friends. Yeah. That we hung out with, and it was just such like a like a beautiful like time
yeah.
in both of our lives.
Yeah.
And then you decided to tell me that you liked me, that we weren't just going to be
friends. I developed
friends.
feelings for the lady.
And then I finally...
you guys, it was really hard to tell her that I liked her. Because we were part of this tight-knit friend group. And if Trin were to say, like, oh, like, I don't like you back, it would have been like, well, I'm leaving. I'm moving somewhere.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Gotta go.
Yeah. And so...
YOLO!
And so then I finally like relented and was like, yes, I like you too. And and then we started dating, and then you kind of
made out a lot,
and then you kind of had like an experience that kind of moved us into the next season. Yeah,
I felt God calling me in a way that I'd never felt before. I just felt God say, hey, there's more to me than just what you've known. There's you're learning one aspect of me, but there's so much more, and I want you to come experience that. And I was like, well, what does that mean? Like visiting other churches, like listening to different speakers, and I was shook. I was shook to my core. And we can tell like that story another time.
Yeah. But essentially, we prayed, we fasted, we read books,
we studied, we called like our wise counsel.
Right. Yeah.
We went through everything because it was a big thing.
Yeah, it was a big transition that we were thinking of making.
Yeah.
And so then we did. We transitioned.
Yep. And we ended up at Free Chapel in Irvine, California, and that was an amazing experience. We met Pastor Javon. He married us.
He ended up marrying us.
The worship there was lit. It was so good. Got to be on the worship team there. And it was a fun experience. Yeah, it was just like a fun, like...
It was like a freeing experience, which is really nice for it to be called Free Chapel. Because
Free Chapel.
It really was. It was just like joyful and freeing, and we learned a lot about like grace and about God's love, and it was just a great time. And we weren't even there for that long, but it was really good.
6-7 months.
Yeah.
And then
we got married.
We got married in November of that. So this is November of 2014. We got married. Went to San Diego for our honeymoon.
Yes.
Came back. And your friend, Alyssa,
had invited us.
Which I was just messaging with her today.
Oh.
They were, I congratulated them. Hey, public congratulations, Alyssa and Sam, for getting your house.
Yeah.
And she reminded me of the time that they watched, they babysat Shine.
Oh,
you remember
really?
that?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So, anyways, sorry. Sidebar.
Yeah. But anyway, she invited us. She said, hey, come visit my church. And we were like, dude,
far.
Your church is like an hour and a half from our house. Like, that's really far.
Where was that? It was in
Ontario, right?
No, it was the city like next to Ontario.
Well, I don't remember it.
I don't remember it either.
But anyway, it was pretty close to Ontario, right?
Yeah.
And she invited us, and she had been telling me for months about this church that she had found, that it was so amazing. And she described like the unique ways in which like they would worship together. Like they would put their chairs in a circle, and they would each have instruments, and they would just worship and sing scriptures. And
which sounded crazy.
Right at the time, I was
we're like, we see those people at the beach. We're not coming.
Yeah, at the time, I was like very used to like corporate, like Americanized Christian worship, and so it was like, but she invited us, and we were like, you know what, let's just go. It's the Sunday after our honeymoon.
We get to hang out.
Yeah, it was the Sunday after we got back from our honeymoon.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And we went, and we never left.
We walked in there, and Christian Garcia, the pastor there, prophesied over us.
Yeah, his mom greeted us.
Yeah.
And then we sit down, and
this is like 30 people. 30 to 50 people.
Yeah. We had no idea that she was his mom. Yeah. And she runs up a piece of paper to him. He's the pastor. And is like, hey, this newly engaged couple's here. And he's like, oh, great, let me prophesy over you. And we're like, what? This is our first time here. Or let me pray over you.
Yeah.
We're like, this is our first time here. But we're like, okay. So they all pray over us. And the things that he said were just like, they were God's words flowing from his mouth. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. He hit on some things that were just like, even if he had been personally Instagram stalking us for a year, he wouldn't have known all the things to say that he said.
And so we were like, we should stay here for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so we were there for a long time.
Yeah. A couple years. And well, maybe a year and a half or something. And then I got pregnant with Shine.
Yep.
And when I was about 7 months pregnant with Shine, I ended up getting really sick and having to be in the hospital.
Yeah.
And that kind of shifted our desire for church as far as we wanted it to be closer to the hospital.
Because it was like an 1.5-hour drive.
Right. And so we're
Ontario from Santa Ana?
We were in Signal Hill at this time.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And
so we lived in Santa Ana in a little back house.
Yep.
Then we lived
in Signal Hill.
Right near Long Beach.
Yep.
And then we went from Signal Hill to Cypress.
Yep.
And then from Cypress
to Anaheim.
And then
yeah. So anyways, yeah, we decided we need to be closer to the hospital because if I go into labor or if I get sick again like this, we need to be close to home. Yeah. And so we were watching Joy City online for quite a while there during my pregnancy. And at this point, we had both quit our jobs because we felt the call to ministry, which is a whole nother story that we're going to have to tell at some point.
We found out the night before that we were pregnant.
Right.
And
the night before our last days of work.
And so we walk into our last days at work that we had already put our notice in at, and we're like, hey, we're pregnant. And they're like, so you're staying, right? And we're like, no, we're still quitting for sure.
And so, so then our time at Joy City was so
amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing.
Yeah, one of the best church experiences I think I've ever had, and some of the most lasting relationships.
Yeah, shout out to Christian for your leadership.
Yeah, seriously,
you rock.
Yeah,
and for those of you who don't know, Christian is still we call him our pastor.
In a lot of ways, he's still... We call him...
We called him a couple nights ago.
Yeah, we encounter a difficult situation. We're like, hey, we need some guidance. He is one of our pastors for sure. And so then we knew that we needed to find a new church closer to home.
Yep. And we were also kind of feeling like I called a ministry at that time.
Right.
And so I started applying to...
Different churches. Right.
To be, worship, youth.
However they could use you.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The thing is I don't play an instrument.
Right.
And so that
makes worship a little difficult to sell.
And so there's this one church that we kept
coming
across, and I applied to it, and they were like, you know what?
Thank you, no thank you.
Thank you, no thank you. We've already hired somebody. And it was like, okay. And because it seemed very... Yeah, because we had looked, the way we looked for churches is we watched the pastor preach.
Right.
And we were like, okay, can we get on board with this?
Right.
And we saw Pastor Steve preach, and we're like, hey,
we're on board.
He preaches with some fire, let's go.
Yeah.
But that was a church that I applied to, and they said no. And I didn't want to be the guy that was like, hey, you said no to me, I'm still showing up anyways.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that guy.
Right, but I wanted to go to a church that was just thriving and alive and, was really going to be a place where we could raise our child.
Right.
Because by this point, we had just had Shine. Yeah. And so we were like, okay, we're ready to find a church.
Yeah.
And
then eventually we gave in.
Yeah, we walked in the door.
And
that was that.
That was in October. I remember. It was the first Sunday in October.
Yeah.
And we walked into La Palma Christian Center in La Palma, California.
Yeah, so we started attending.
Yeah, and we were just like, this is our church. Yeah. This is it.
Yeah, and within a couple of months, we were leading the young adults, and I was the secretary, and then a couple months
got hired
later...
on as the secretary, and then Pastor Steve and Karen called us, and they were like, hey, can you guys go to lunch?
Yeah.
And I was working at a office job, and I asked my boss, I'm like, hey, can I take a long lunch today? And I had a feeling like there was something happening. Yeah. And so we go to lunch with Pastor Steve and Karen. And Pastor Steve says, hey, do you want to be the new worship pastor? And I was like, oh, let me pray about it. Yes!
Yeah.
For sure!
And so I
was part-time for a while.
Yep, and then he became the full-time worship pastor. Yep. So at that point, we're living literally like a vision and dream fulfilled. Both of us are working at the same church, serving the body of Christ. This is what we have prayed for. This is what we've asked for. And the fact that we are both hired at this church with offices right next to each other.
Trent was my secretary, and I make jokes about it all the time.
Yeah, it was just it was mind-blowing that it had been fulfilled, and prior to even what we had assumed it would be fulfilled.
So shout out to Pastor Steve and Karen
for giving us that opportunity.
Giving us that, opening that door.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. And so we worked at La Palma for a while, and we loved our time there. We love our young adults from there.
Yes, and they're all married now. They all married each other.
Yeah, well, that means we did a good job,
Yeah, we did
right?
a good job. Did a good job.
And so then we had thought that we would be there, like, they had a school attached to the church. So we thought, Shine's going to grow up going to the school, and maybe once he's, 10 years old, like, maybe then we'll move to, like, we thought maybe Texas or something, because we knew we didn't want to live in California forever.
Right. We had started feeling the pause to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we had always kind of felt a call to leave California. Mm-hmm. We're not California. We're not those city slickers, huh? And so we felt a call to leave California, but we didn't know where.
Right.
We didn't know where we were going to go. We thought it was Michigan because, we thought Michigan or Texas, right?
Yeah, we kind of just thought, like, okay, we're not supposed to be here. Maybe Michigan, maybe Texas. And we thought, like I said, like it was going to be in 10 years.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden,
the same morning, God speaks to both of us
independently
and says, hey,
Today's
you need
the day.
to step down from your job today, or like put in your notice.
Yeah.
And I'm going to send you somewhere.
Yeah, and at this point, like, we had just bought a brand new condo, an old condo that was brand new to us, that we had just spent time and money renovating.
Yeah.
And
into, like, our dream
into our
mini condo.
Yeah, basically, like, our dream home on a smaller scale that we could afford in Southern California.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, God's like, hey, you need to go let your pastor know that you're leaving.
Yeah, and that was really hard.
What?
That was really hard.
Yeah, and so we had that discussion, but thank you, Jesus, for pastors who are in the Holy Ghost with you.
Yeah.
And he just was like, wow, like, this is going to be a blow to us for both of you to leave. We love you guys, but, like, the Spirit, in me agrees with the Spirit in you. Like, I am sitting here and I can't say no to this,
Yeah.
And so that was really, it was powerful to have him, be on the same page as us and, help us look for other positions.
Yeah, you wrote like a letter of recommendation. We had put in like a 3-month window.
Yeah.
And so I started applying to jobs. Mm-hmm. You get a resume. Everybody got a resume. Mm-hmm. Churches would call me back and I'd say, what church are you calling from?
Yeah, what state are you in?
I sent resumes everywhere. And then this church from Wisconsin called us.
Yeah.
And me and Matty Cakes, Pastor Matt, we kind of hit it off and we ended up in Mayville, Wisconsin.
Yes, so we went from SoCal all my life. Ben had a little bit of understanding of a quote-unquote small town.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we're in a town of 5.
Yeah,
we're in a town of 5,000 people, which is, I don't even know if you could imagine it if you're from California, because it's almost unimaginable. And I remember Googling, like, where's the closest Starbucks? And it was 40 minutes away. And that was, like, it rocked my core.
Yeah. Where's the closest Starbucks? Inside of that Target.
Yeah, inside.
Or no, Target, sorry.
Yeah. Target and Starbucks were near each other, and then there was a Starbucks in the Target, and they were both 40 minutes away. So Target was 40 minutes, Starbucks was 40
minutes for Trin. 30 for me.
Oh my goodness. So, I drive, like I said, I'm a rule follower. I drive the speed limit. So you can just honk and go around me.
Yeah.
It's fine. But anyways, we moved to Mayville and wow, what a crazy difference from Orange County to Mayville. And it was really like a fun experience to like...
We got to
see all 4 seasons. First of all, like just the state switch was really cool that we got to see all 4 seasons.
It was beautiful.
Oh my
Wisconsin
goodness.
is beautiful.
Yes, it is beautiful. And then getting to like meet people, literally like the nicest people, like so sweet. And like the Midwest like stereotype, that's them. Like they're so sweet and so nice. And like they're willing, like if your roof is leaking, like 14 of them show up to fix it. Like they're so kind. Yeah. They're the most generous.
Amazing community.
Yeah, generous community. And, it was fun to be there. And we actually went there in a new position that we had never been in before. So
and I almost didn't even apply to that position.
Right.
Because it was
kind of like this. I'm not qualified for this.
Yeah.
Because previously we had been young adults, in charge of young adults, and in charge of worship.
Yeah.
And so then at Mayville, they needed an associate/youth pastor.
Yeah.
So these were both positions that were new to us.
Yeah.
But
and so I almost didn't even apply because I was like, associate. Like, who would hire me as an associate? Like,
you're like, I'm a joke.
I'm a clown, man. Who would hire me?
And now that's what they say looking back. They're like,
they're like, why did we hire him?
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, yeah, but like, I was like, there's no way I'm qualified for...
Sorry, that's my iced coffee.
Like, how am I qualified to be an associate pastor? Like, those guys are serious.
Yeah, right.
That's big time, man.
Right,
I'm just a youth pastor.
Yeah, but it was honestly such a great experience
so much fun
for us. We grew a lot being there.
Yeah.
We grew a lot in grace and in generosity just because you pick that up from the people that you're around, you know, and
we got involved. Like, we met people all across the state.
Oh, yeah.
And I met some of my
really good friends.
Some of my really good friends are some of my really good friends are from Wisconsin.
Yeah, and so we were there, and we did not have any intention of moving again. I feel like this is like a reoccurring theme.
I know. We kept saying, like, we're going to settle down here. We're going to plant roots. Right. We're going to be here for 5 years unless God's like, hey, I'm calling you somewhere else. But we had even talked to them about buying a house because we were living in a parsonage at the time.
Right. And really, like, once we had Shine, our son, like, we were like, we want to stay in the place, you know? And God was like, no.
Yeah.
Several times. He was like, nope, that's
LOL.
not the plan. Yeah. You know, what is it? Like, you make plans and God laughs.
No, you want to make God laugh, make plans.
Yeah. And so we thought we were going to be there for quite a long time. And we just, we started to feel, you know, God kind of speak to our hearts a little bit. Like, yeah, but it was like, more like
almost like a you can't see my hands.
a little nudge.
Yes, nudge. Jinx, jinx, you gotta kiss me.
And so, really though, we felt that nudge, but we thought like, oh, this is like the direction the Lord is giving us for in 5 years when we're done.
Right.
You know, and then we got a call.
Well, even before that, we thought we were going to Arizona.
We did. We thought, well, that's what we thought, kind of like in a couple years, we're going to go to Arizona, right? Like, it was still like after we've been here for 5 years, then we'll be moving on. That was, we were trying to plan. We were trying to say, okay, we're dedicated. And I think with youth pastors, there's just like this idea that, there is a reality that there's a huge turnover with youth pastors. And so we wanted to like fight the stereotype and be like, no, not with us. Like, we're going to be here. And, you know, eventually, you know,
I wanted to see like that. Some
class graduate.
Yeah, I want to see that class graduate.
Yeah. And so, but what ended up happening was we got a call, and that call was like life-changing. And that was
Uncle Nate,
our pastor now, Nate, and he is in Michigan, and he is related to Ben. Basically, everyone,
I don't even know how.
I was going to say, basically everyone in Michigan is related to Ben's. That's what he thinks.
I would always joke that I can't marry a woman from Michigan because I'd end up marrying a cousin.
Yeah. So, so we get this call, and it's just like mind-blowing, and I'm just like trying to process this because in the little tidbit that we left out was that we had really wanted to have more kids. And it just wasn't happening for us. We weren't having any luck. We weren't getting pregnant. And then what ended up happening was I left for California. Mm-hmm. And I get back from California, and you leave for camp.
Yep.
And I realized this is in July, after I dropped Shine off at preschool, I realized that I should probably take a pregnancy test. So I take one, and immediately the line comes up super dark. I'm pregnant. And I'm losing my mind because you're gone for a week. You had just left.
I'm an hour and a half away.
Right. And you had just left like the day before.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh my goodness. And so I decide, you know, first of all, I cannot keep a secret from you. Like a surprise, forget it. Like, we buy each other gifts and walk in the door and say, guess what I got you?
Yeah.
So I grabbed Shine from preschool, drove up to camp, and we surprised you and told you that I was pregnant, you know? And then I had to go into the doctor to get like my HGC levels checked, which just is kind of like, how far along, you know, is the pregnancy viable? Is it going to stick? Are you good? You know?
Yeah.
And, the doctor calls me back. I remember we were at the like the Sunday that we had at the park. We did like a...
Oh, yeah.
At CLF, we did like a park service, and I get a call from the doctor while I'm at the park service. And that Sunday was actually the Sunday that Matt and Amanda, our pastors, announced that they were also pregnant.
Having their 5th kid.
Yes. And so I got a call, and it was the doctor, and she was like, your HGC levels came back, but it seems like you are a lot farther along than you think. Now, I knew this was not the case. Like, I could pinpoint when we got pregnant. So I was like, no, this is not, this is not, I'm like, that can't be the case. Like, really? Like, I was just like, am I that wrong? Am I that off? Like, on what I think happened? And like, I don't think so. And so I Googled, like, reasons HGC would be high. And it said twins.
And I remember turning, no way.
I turned around at the park and I said, hey, she called and said it's higher. And I just Googled it and it said one of the reasons is twins. But of course, another reason is that maybe I'm just 2 months more pregnant than I think I am. And everyone's like, oh, that's got to be it. Like, there's no way. Like, everyone just kind of brushed it off. Like, there's no way it could be.
Me the most. I was like, we're not having twins.
Yeah.
Like, that's not happening.
Right. And
I literally called you crazy. I'm
like,
it's not happening. You're like, I think we are. And I'm like, no, we're not.
Yeah. And then I just kind of like forgot about it. Because really to me, it like wasn't a super like viable option. It was just like, that'd be cool. That'd be interesting. Like, that'd be a weird reason why my HTC was high, So then we go to our ultrasound where they're going, our first ultrasound. I think I was like 7 or 8 weeks. And we were going to our very first ultrasound, and we went to Chili's to eat beforehand.
Shout out to Chili's.
And
welcome to Chili's.
My mom texted me while we were sitting there waiting for our appointment and said, hey, make sure you eat enough for my twin girls. Ha ha ha. And I was like, okay, Mom. And we go into the appointment, and the doctor tells us, there's 2 in there.
Looks like there's 2 in there.
And we were like...
She said it so nonchalant, I thought it was a joke.
Yeah, we were both like, what?
And I stood up. And I looked at the ultrasound, and I saw 2, like, sacs.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
And you started bawling.
I did. I started bawling because, well, number 1, because we're having twins, but also number 2, I was kind of crying and laughing and trying to explain a funny story.
Just like an insane thing.
Let's be honest, that's pretty normal.
Yeah,
okay,
that's very normal
so, for me. And so I'm grabbing the doctor's arm, like, and trying to tell her a funny story in the middle of my sobs, because our pastor and his wife, Matt and Amanda, they were also pregnant, and everybody had been joking with them that they were going to have twins.
Because they already had 4. And they were like, you might as well just have...
twins, added
starting
on.
5 and a substitute.
Yeah. And so, like, I would be standing next to Amanda, and people would come up and joke with her about how she was going to have twins. And knowing that we're both pregnant, nobody ever directed that comment towards me. It was always towards Amanda. So I'm, like, laughing and crying and grabbing the doctor's arm and trying to be like, our pastors went this morning for their ultrasound, and everyone said they were going to have twins, and they're not, but we are. And she's just looking at
lol.
Like, it was such a mess of a moment. Like, and meanwhile, Matt's texting you like, hello, how many? Because they're watching Shine while we're at our ultrasound.
Yeah.
And
I sent Matt 2 pregnant women emojis.
Yes. I was like, no,
and
you don't
like,
have.
Shut up.
Yeah, you don't have 2 pregnant women. You have 1 woman with 2 babies. But anyway, and he was like, no, and so,
and of course nobody believes me,
right? Because he's a joke, like we said. So we get outside, we FaceTime all of our family, and we hold up the 2 ultrasound pictures, and my mom is like, no way. Yeah. Everyone's shocked. Yeah. But my mom had just said twins, right? Yeah. Then we go to our 20-week ultrasound, and bam, it's twin girls.
Sunday and Sequoia.
That's right.
And Sequoia's name, we had such a hard time trying to pick a second name.
Yeah.
Because we had always loved Sunny, because if it was a boy, we would name him Sunday. Right?
No, definitely not.
No, what was the name then?
I don't know.
No, it was going to be Sunny.
Oh, you thought that, not me.
Oh, well, okay.
I wasn't about
I
to
thought
name
we were
going to
call him Sunny, like S-U-N-N...
No, S-O.
No, S-O-N-N-Y, and if it was a girl...
S-U-N-N-Y.
Yeah.
That's what you thought.
And it's so funny, we don't even call Sunday Sunny.
No, we don't.
We don't.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I know, I texted you last night and said Sunny, and I was wondering if you were going to be like, why'd you call her that?
I did. I was like, that's weird, in my mind. So
anyways, so we had Sunday and Sequoia. Whoa.
Oh, there goes my phone.
So we had Sunday and Sequoia, and we found out they were girls, and I was like, okay, Mom, you are prophetic. Like, let's work on that gift. And so, So yeah, we had the girls, and okay, so that was a long rabbit that I just chased.
Yeah.
But the point is, meanwhile, we had just had twins, and the entire world had shut down due to a pandemic, and then we get a phone call. Hey, we want you to come here.
Yeah.
And we were just like, whoa. And so...
was that like the end of summer?
Yeah. And so we started talking to our pastor about it, and Amanda, the pastor's wife, had told me, like, I'm not surprised. Like, God told me back in whatever month, I think it was, 4 months prior to this even happening, that you guys were going to be moving. Like, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, we had
no plans.
No, it was literally a blind side to me.
We were about to do like a church plan, and we were about to like help with that. Like,
I mean, these babies were months old, 4 months old or something. Like, I had no plans of moving with 4-month-old twins and a little boy. Like, I was ready for Shine to start preschool full time. Like, well, I guess it's part time, but like Monday through Friday from 8 to noon or something, so that I could be at home alone with the twins.
Yeah.
I had no clue. This was a total blindside to me. And so probably God kept it that way because he knew, like, this crazy hormonal lady pregnant with twins, I can't tell her the truth right now.
What is truth?
Yeah. So yeah, we get the call and we end up accepting the position
in Michigan.
And we end up moving here.
So excited.
To Michigan.
I called my grandma.
Yeah.
I call her Grandma Wayla, which is grandma twice.
Yeah.
And I call her, and she has been praying for years.
Yeah,
for us to come back to Michigan.
Yeah.
And I call her, and she starts speaking in tongues, and she's crying, and she's so excited.
Yeah.
And then, on top of that...
we got the bonus. Because we didn't mention this earlier, but Tori moved in with us
my little sister.
Yeah, sorry.
3 years younger than me.
Yeah, she moved in with us when she was 18. And so she lived with us, and she took care of Shine for us while we worked at the church. And, she was basically like Shine's second mama. Yeah. And we loved having her live with us. And she actually moved with us to Wisconsin. But it was a lot harder.
It was way too country
for a 21-year-old, I think she was 21 at the time, to handle, a 5,000 person town with no shopping, no family. Yeah, no family, no, exciting fun stuff to go do.
Yeah.
It was a lot harder for her to handle. So she lived with us for a couple...
Going to the zoo wasn't as fun for
her. Yeah. So she was with us for a couple months, and then she ended up going back to California.
Yeah, living with my mom.
But when we decided to come to Michigan, she decided to come with us. And so we got her back, which really... feels like our family is complete, because now she's helping with the girls.
She's like our daughter.
The same way she helped with Shine, yeah. And so that is, when we mention these people, we mention these places, we mention what we've done before, we just kind of wanted everyone to have like an understanding.
And so right now, Shine is 4.
Mm-hmm. The girls are 10 months?
Sure.
About 10 months,
we'll call it 10.
Yeah. We don't really keep track until they're a year.
Yeah.
Then we just say their actual year age. We're definitely not those people that are like, they're 88 weeks. We can't do that kind of math. So, yeah.
He's 74 months old.
Yeah, we can't do that. So that's where we are now. We live in Michigan. We work
we bought a house.
We did. And we work, Ben is the youth pastor at Pineview Church. And
we are the youth and young adults pastors.
Oh, okay. Yes, at Pineview Church. And, we
love it here.
We love it. We are so happy to be here.
It's snowing right now.
Yes. It feels like we're home.
Yes.
It really does.
Yes.
And so we love it. We're glad to be here. I was thinking about this as we were talking, like, I just want people to realize that this is an overview of, like, I know it's long, but it's really a quick overview of just who we are, where we came from, what we did, and how we ended up here.
Yeah.
But as I was thinking about it, like, there was a lot of, like, hurt and, trials and frustrations and, things that we went through.
Drug busts and arrests and...
Not quite that, but, it was...
warrants and...
We went through some stuff, is what I'm trying to say. And brushing over it this way might seem like, wow, their life is perfect. They just, sailed right along, and everyone was always on their side, and everything always worked in their favor.
We had to pay off a lot of people.
Yeah. No, we encountered a lot of trials. We did. We went through a lot of trials. We encountered hardship, and those are things that we would love to touch on in another episode.
Yeah.
But this episode was just to kind of give a background so that when we talk about stuff...
You know who you're listening to.
Right. You can be on the same page with us.
Yeah. And, That's the original episode 1.
Yeah. Who we are.
Who we is.
Yeah.
We're the Comptons.
We are.
And we hold nothing back. But so first of all, thank you for listening to this whole thing. God bless you. Go get some Chick-fil-A.
Reward yourself.
On us. We'll owe you later. And if you listened, let us know. Let us know if you listened. It's encouraging when we hear people say, "Hey, I just listened to your podcast," and it's like, "What? You
took the time?
You took the time to listen to us?"
Yeah, it's surprising to us that anyone besides our moms and our grandmas even care to hear what we have to say. Yeah. So let us know if you're listening. We're grateful for you.
And if you want to know more about something, let us know. Be like, "Hey, you talked about this.
What happened? What did that mean?" Or what? Yeah, shoot us a DM. We're open.
Slide in our DMs. It's so weird.
Yeah. Well, we love you guys.
Yes.
We're so grateful for you, and we hope that you tune in next week to It's the Comptons podcast.
Yep. And if you're listening on Spotify, you can follow us. And if you're listening on YouTube, you can
subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Smash the like button.
And also turn on your notifications so you're notified every time we upload.
Yeah.
And if you're not already, follow us on Instagram, friend us on Facebook.
Yep. We
would love to connect with you.
On Instagram, It's Ben Compton.
And I'm It's Trent Compton.
Boom. ITS Ben Compton.
Yeah. All right. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week on It's the Comptons podcast.